There's a mountain where every step is a gamble against death, a place that forgives no mistakes, no heroes, where glory can turn into tragedy in a single heartbeat. But in recent years, something strange has begun to happen. The impossible started to look routine. Risk became a product, and even this mountain, once the very opposite of Everest, began to change. Why did it become known as the mountain that kills the strong? What explains the deadliest summers in mountaineering history when even the most skilled climbers were swallowed by chaos? And what has changed so much that today, in just one day, more than 100 people can reach the summit of one of the most lethal places on Earth? Before we can understand what K2 represents today, we need to go back to the moment when mysticism, death, and glory first began to intertwine. Amid the frozen shadows of the Karakoram Range, rising between Pakistan and China, stands a pyramid of ice and rock that feels alive. K2, a monolith of 28,251 feet, 8,611 meters, where the air is thin, the cold is deadly, and the silence echoes like a warning. Here, the wind seems to have a will of its own, and every gust whispers, "You don't belong here." Unlike Everest, where lines of tourists wait for their photo at the summit, K2 is a place for the few. There are no permanent ropes, no established commercial routes. Its local name, Chogori, means the Great Mountain. But the world knows it by the cold mathematical label it received in 1856 during the British Great Trigonometrical Survey. K2, the second peak catalogued in the Karakoram Range. An impersonal, almost scientific name. And perhaps that's what makes it so fitting. K2 has always been seen as an unpredictable force of nature. When American explorer George Bell narrowly survived a mass fall in 1950, he summed up the experience in a single line that would echo through history. "It's a savage mountain that tries to kill you." From that day, the Savage Mountain became K2's unofficial title, a literal reflection of what hundreds of climbers would later feel on its slopes. The first official sighting came during the Great Trigonometrical Survey of India. From that time until today, the mountain has remained remote, almost sacred. Early expeditions in 1902, 1909, and 1938 were marked by failure, illness, and death. Mysticism began to blend with geography. Many locals believed the mountain housed a spirit that tested the human heart. In 1953, tragedy deepened this legend. American climber Art Gilkey, struck by thrombosis during a storm, vanished while being rescued. Some believe he sacrificed himself, releasing the rope so his team could survive. A gesture that still echoes as a symbol of humanity's fragile bond with the impossible. A year later, in 1954, Italians Achille Compagnoni and Lino Lacedelli finally reached the summit. But their triumph was clouded by controversy. Pakistani porter Amir Mehdi lost nearly all his fingers and his nose to frostbite after a fateful decision made by the team. Glory, as K2 would teach time and time again, always comes at a very high price. On K2, every victory is a tribute, and every life lost is remembered as part of the cost. The mountain watches in silence, indifferent to courage or pride, and it's that indifference that makes it sacred. But what drives someone to challenge a mountain that has claimed so many lives? The pursuit of glory or the secret desire to confront death itself? Every generation tries to carve its name into K2's history, but here, glory has always been paid for in silence, through cold, exhaustion, and disappearance. In the decades that followed the first ascent, K2 became the ultimate test in mountaineering, a mountain few dared to face, and from which almost no one emerged unscathed. 3 decades later, in 1986, the mountain would demand its cruelest tribute. That summer became known as the Black Summer of K2. 13 climbers died in a chain of tragedies involving 5 different expeditions. The weather seemed favorable early in the season, but in the first days of August, a sudden storm trapped dozens of climbers above 26,247 feet, the altitude where the human body begins to break down irreversibly. Among them were Julie Tullis and Kurt Diemberger, a filmmaking duo hoping to capture historic images from the summit. They reached the top, but the price was devastating. Tullis fell ill during the descent and died days later, surrounded by teammates who were starving, exhausted, and trapped in what was left of a wind-shredded camp. "She died in her sleep," Diemberger wrote, and perhaps that was the most peaceful end K2 could allow. Over the next 5 days, the storm tore apart tents, destroyed ropes, and erased every trace of a path. Some tried to descend alone. Others were never seen again. When the sky finally cleared, only a few survivors made it back to base camp. The outcome was devastating. 13 dead in a single summer. From that moment on, climbers gave K2 a new name: the mountain that kills the strong. If 1986 was the summer of devastation, then 2008 would be the year of disbelief. 11 climbers died in a single summit attempt, a tragedy that exposed the thin line between courage and ego. On August 1st, dozens of climbers from different nations shared the same goal: to seize a rare window of good weather. The plan was cooperative. Teams from Norway, South Korea, France, Serbia, and the United States had agreed to share the work of fixing ropes. But what began as collaboration soon turned into confusion. Miscommunication, poor leadership, and delays meant the teams reached the death zone far too late. At a section known as the bottleneck, a narrow, deadly corridor beneath a massive hanging sirac, the first accident struck. Serbian climber Dren Mandic fell while trying to pass another climber. They tried to reach him, but he succumbed to his injuries minutes later. Even in the face of tragedy, the teams decided to continue, a decision that would cost far too much. Hours later, Norwegian Rolf Bay was caught in an avalanche that swept him away before the eyes of his wife, Cecilia Skog. The impact destroyed parts of the fixed ropes, leaving dozens of climbers stranded above 26,247 feet, with no safe route down. Soon after, the weather turned. The wind intensified, a blizzard engulfed the mountain, and within hours, K2 was swallowed by the storm. Under cutting winds and total darkness, no one knew which direction to take. By around 7 p.m., the mountain had become a frozen labyrinth. Climbers groped through the void, disoriented, dehydrated, hallucinating. Amid the chaos, one man stood out: the Irishman Ger MacDonald, who stayed behind to help 3 South Korean climbers tangled in a web of ropes. He managed to free them, but moments later, another collapse of ice buried them all. Ger lost his life trying to save people he didn't even know. When the storm finally passed, only 7 of the 18 who had set out for the summit returned alive. The survivors reached base camp with frost-burned faces, split lips, and empty stares, as if part of them had been left behind on the mountain. K2 didn't just take lives, it revealed truths. It showed how far humans are willing to go in search of meaning, and how dangerously close that search can come to the edge. One survivor later said, "If everyone had turned back when the first man fell, only one would have died." But no one wanted to give up. Decades later, in 2023, K2 once again became the stage of a tragedy that reopened old wounds. During a commercial ascent, Pakistani high-altitude porter Mohammed Hassan, poorly equipped and without proper training, collapsed near the bottleneck. Trapped in one of the most dangerous sections of the mountain, he fought for hours while dozens of climbers tried to move past. The incident sparked global outrage and reignited the debate about ethics and ambition in the high mountains. Investigations revealed severe negligence. Hassan had been sent into lethal terrain by a company that failed to prepare him for the climb. His death forced a painful question to resurface. Amid the glamour of records and conquests, does life still hold the same value at the top of the world? K2 never forgave, but now perhaps the question has changed. Who sets the limit, nature or the human ego? K2 has always been the antithesis of Everest. While Everest has become a product, with lines, bottled oxygen, and a logistical playbook, K2 remained the last stronghold of real risk. But that's starting to change. In 2022, a single weather window triggered a human avalanche to the summit, more than 150 summits in just 24 hours. That same year, nearly 200 climbers stood on top of the savage mountain. By 2023, the movement continued with fewer fatalities than in previous decades. The effect is clear. K2's once feared death rate, roughly 1 in 4, is steadily falling. For many, it's proof that the Everest effect has arrived. As one Himalayan chronicler put it, the Everest model is now official on K2, but every statistic tells an incomplete story. K2 hasn't become easier. What's changed is the infrastructure. More ropes, more commercial teams, more bottled oxygen, more professionals working at altitude. The result is faster progress and decisions made with clearer minds, less clouded by hypoxia. Studies comparing descent deaths from Everest and K2 reveal a pattern. Climbers using oxygen are less likely to die on the way down. In simple terms, if you reach the summit breathing better, you come back with more margin. It doesn't erase the risk, and K2 reminds us of that every year, but it shifts the odds. The real cost, however, appears in different ledgers: ethics, dignity, and the meaning of achievement. As more companies arrive, so do the demands on those who make the mountain work: Sherpas and local high-altitude porters. They set the routes, fix ropes, restock camps, break trail after storms, often exposing themselves in hours and conditions their clients will never face. Recent events have shown that even with all our technology and experience, an old question still echoes. When everything goes wrong, who gets saved, and who is left behind? Then there's the symbolic erosion of what the summit means. In past decades, the question was, is it possible? Today, it's, when does the window open? With so many climbers attempting the summit on the same day, bottlenecks form on technical sections. A line on an ice wall isn't just an inconvenience, it's accumulating risk. Every minute spent standing still up there is a silent wager against the collapse of thousands of tons of ice above your head. Culturally and economically, K2 has become both a stage and a livelihood. For the communities of the Karakoram, a good season means work, income, and a measure of stability. For companies, every summit photo shared online fuels the marketing cycle that brings the next wave. For the audience, the narrative seduces, overcoming, records, the first to ever. But the more K2 enters the market of consumption, the more it depends on a system that normalizes the extraordinary. Turning the exception into routine comes with a price. And on K2, that price is always paid with double the risk. That leads to the uncomfortable question: is K2 becoming the new Everest? In summit numbers and commercial offers, the trend points that way. In nature, absolutely not. The mountain is still steep, the weather still brutal, and the death zone still makes no deals. What's changed is the perception of control. More ropes and organization reduce variables. Believing that all of them are under control is something else entirely. K2 has a way of correcting that miscalculation. There are ways to climb responsibly: transparency about technical requirements, clear client-to-guide limits, decision protocols that place life above the summit, and minimum standards for local workers. Proper gear, training, fair pay, and the power to say no. Above all, an ethic of turning your back on the summit when the mountain says no, even if it's just one more hour. In the end, commercialization is neither good nor bad on its own. It's a matter of choices. It can open doors, professionalize expeditions, and save lives through better logistics. Or it can create an expensive spectacle with poor decisions and invisible human costs. K2 has been the same since 1856, a severe pyramid at the edge of the world. It's we who have changed, our motives, our metrics, our limits. So what does K2 say about us today? That we can organize chaos until the ice decides to fall, that we can reduce mortality and still fail at the essential. Remembering that every summit only matters when everyone has a real chance to come back. Because on K2, between glory, business, and tragedy, the line is as thin as a rope stretched across the bottleneck. So tell us, what would drive you to face a place like K2? Glory, curiosity, or something deeper? Share your thoughts below. Leave a like if you felt the climb, and subscribe for more untold stories of our world. And hey, there's a new story waiting for you on your screen right now. Click it, and I'll meet you there.